Hey, welcome back to another week of trading. This week started off pretty strong, but with many lessons to be learned, followed by some actual drawdown with lessons, and then ending the week with some disciplined trades. Overall, the week was profitable. I made a total of a little over $2,000, $2,089, and a majority of that, once again, came from selling Hood Premium. So the start of the week, again, is Robinhood. Once again, I really like this stock. It's been very strong, especially after SPY inclusion. People are going to continue adding it to their funds and everything, and there has to be accumulation, and it's doing just that. It was especially strong right after FOMC. So my sign to get a lot more aggressive on Hood while still managing my risk happened on Wednesday right after FOMC. So if we go to the 5-minute chart, and let's take a look at SPY first, because the market comes first. So right at FOMC, this is Wednesday, you can see that the market goes up, and then it flushes downwards, and then it comes right back up to this pink line as the 5-day moving average. So when you see this market holding this 5-day moving average right here, that's a sign of strength. And so when I was looking at Hood as well, it very much aligned with that 5-day moving average holding strength right here. It's holding this 5-day moving average. And so right when I saw the candles moving up like this through the 5-day, really strongly with heavy volume, I got much more aggressively long there. So I was still doing premium plays on Hood, where I was selling puts and doing buy rights, but this here was my sign to get more long aggressively, and it paid off. So over $1,600 from Hood right there. Now for the day trading, which is where the real lessons were this week. I started off the week very strong on Monday with 100% winning trades on Oklo, Apple, and NVDA. Even on a profitable day though, I made mistakes. Oklo was my first trade of the day. As you can see, I entered down here, and I rode it all the way up to there. I took profits along the way, but after this candle, I got out. 100% of my trade I left. And as you can see, continued to run the rest of the day, and it even continued running the rest of the week. And so something that I can do, I can practice, and you can see I entered again on Tuesday here. Something that I can do is really leave some shares as runners with a much wider stop. And that way, if I'm in stocks that have these huge run-ups like this, then I still have exposure after they're running. And I've locked in profits already, so there's very little risk in me staying and trying to ride that out. NVIDIA as well was another big one on Monday that I missed out on. I entered NVIDIA on Monday on this right here. You can see that NVIDIA was below the 5-day moving average, which is this pink right here. And then I think this is the 50-day moving average and the 20. So it was at these major moving averages. And it tries to break through here, and then it tries again, and it does on nice increased buy volume. And my thought was, oh, it's going to at least hit this gap fill. But what did I do? I got out at the first little sign of weakness right here, and I missed out on like another $1 worth of gains per share. So the idea of really letting my trade play out with my initial thought process and then leaving shares to run afterwards. Like, okay, any shares that I would have had to run afterwards, maybe they wouldn't have done well. They wouldn't have, see. But even my initial trade idea I didn't follow through with. I got out early, and that was a mistake. And there isn't much to be said about Apple on Monday. Oops. Just took a very small trade here, got out on the break of this buying algorithm, and then that was it for Apple. Just a very small trade there. And I closed Monday with a profit of $141 on just those couple of trades. Tuesday was a pretty bad day for me. I knew going into it that it was going to be a choppy day. Tuesday is right before the FOMC. FOMC is on Wednesday. And so the market is not going to really know what to do. Yet what did I do? I went into Oracle, and I thought, oh, it has huge volume, it gapped up, it's going to pull back, and then maybe I'll try to trade a bounce. So I tried twice. I got in early both times, even before it tested the 5-day moving average. It needed to test the 5-day moving average first. And then it just continued down, and it blew through all my stops. Along with 3 losing trades that I took on Apple here, I lost a total of $191 on Tuesday morning. Afterwards, I was able to very carefully decrease my loss to a $90 loss on the day mostly by having a good trade on Oklo here, once again, the one that I mentioned before. But regardless, I shouldn't have traded on Tuesday, or at the very least traded very minimally with much smaller position size, knowing that on Wednesday the FOMC was coming and the market would not have great direction. I learned my lesson because on Wednesday I didn't take any active day trades. The only trade that I took was a long on JD. I entered a long the morning there on China news, and that was a swing trade. As you can see, the stop is much wider, and I actually exited for partials when it wasn't breaking through this 200-day moving average successfully. And so I'm holding on to less than half my original position. I only have 20 shares left, and I'm just kind of seeing where it goes. I may just break even completely on the trade overall, but I took some profits around the 200-day moving average. Now on Thursday, I entered a long on NVDA that I'm still holding. Here I accidentally sold my position. It was a complete accident. I meant to buy and I accidentally sold instead. But I re-entered here, so I'm holding a long position on NVIDIA. I took partials around this area, and I'm still holding 50 shares of NVIDIA for a swing, because I see it holding well above this 50-day moving average here, and until it really breaks down below that, I'm okay with holding NVIDIA. It is the leader in AI, and it's strong from a fundamental level as well. On Friday, I also had a really great day in discipline. I wanted to really hone in on my mistakes on Tuesday and wait for a great setup. And that's what I did. I noticed that CRWV had these huge volume candles, as you can see, with lots of buying. And my thought process was it can pull back, and then after the pullback, it'll have a bounce. So I initially entered around here in this area, and I got out for an $18 gain on CRWV in this first initial thing. I had my stop very tight. I took partials quickly. My risk was very low. And then after that, I waited. I was extremely patient. I charted this buying algo from the previous day, and along with the selling algorithms that were pushing down, I wanted to wait till this point in order to re-enter. So I waited for all these candles to play out, and you can see right at this spot here, this candle is where I entered. And I rode it all the way up. My target was around VWAP, and after it broke through VWAP and didn't seem to like it, I exited right here for about $3 a share, a little over $3 a share. And my profits on the second trade were $83, putting my total profits of the day at $103. This is a trade that I'm extremely happy with because I was very patient in waiting for the trade to go exactly where I wanted to before I entered. My risk was very small. If I had sized larger, I would have had probably double the profits. With similar risk as my usual trades, I had actually sized down for this trade. So yeah, I'm very happy with CRWV. This was also an active week for my swing positions. I took out my entire position on LDI when I saw it breaking through this 5-day moving average on pretty heavy selling. I didn't like the price action that it had the last couple days, and so I got out. I took partial profits on SMR. If you remember last week, in my last video, I said I entered a long position on Friday, and I took partial profits right around here. So this blue line is the 50-day moving average, and when it failed to break through the 50-day moving average, I took some position off. And then On Friday, after it broke through, you can see that I added more to my long because I saw this as really great strength, and it continued going up from that point. And I'll continue swinging this until I see some breakdown in the technicals. As I mentioned previously, I'm also swinging NVDA and JD. I had mentioned last week that I was very interested in swinging OKLO. Unfortunately, I did not enter a swing this week. I only day traded it 2 or 3 times. It would have been an incredible swing trade, but could've, would've, should've. I didn't do it, and it is what it is. There's always going to be more trades like that, and I'm in SMR. I still may look to enter OKLO at some point here. On Monday, my Humana trade was quickly stopped out right at open, and I closed that trade for a $50 loss. So in total, $1,600 came from premium selling on Hood, $220 came from closed positions from previous weeks, and another $200 came from active day trading. This week ended with a final profit of $2,089. There's a couple key lessons I learned from this week of trading. One is, in order to maximize winners, I really need to be open to leaving runners and not being scared of letting some of my shares just ride at the very end. 2 is I really should avoid choppy conditions, especially when I know there's going to be indecision in the market coming from events like FOMC. 3 is patience, patience, patience. Wait for the market to come to you. Don't try to force trades. So where are we going from here? Until some horrible news is released, the market will continue going up, in my opinion. Void of any bad news, the market goes up. We also see the dollar weakening, and weakening dollar inflates asset prices. As you can see, the market has been really holding well above this 10-day moving average, 5-day moving average even. And until that breaks down, the market will continue to run. So I'm still very bullish here. Anyhow, thank you for joining in this week's diary entry. Follow along for the next one. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like, and let me know in the comments, how was your week? See you in the next one.